First, turn off all cell phones. There were no iPhones in the 90s. Be sure to clear the aisles. Our actors will be using them, so if you have any book bags or umbrellas, just be careful.
So this is the back drama you're about to see. So every word was spoken by a real, actual person. It's all based on real events that you may or may not be familiar with. So just keep that in mind.
I'm Tegan. I'm a producer for Company Carolina, and my announcement is that proposals for next season's shows are open. You can find that through our Facebook page, so if you really want to direct or there's a show you want to see, you should definitely propose. I encourage everyone to.
And we will have a 10-minute intermission, but if at any time you need to leave, there's some heavy emotional material, please feel free to do so. Just be aware of the actors in the aisles. Thank you, and we hope you enjoy the show.
On November 14, 1998, the members of Tectonic Theater Project traveled to Laramie, Wyoming, and conducted interviews with the people of the town. Over the course of the next year, we would return to Laramie several times and conduct over 200 interviews. The play you are about to see is edited from those interviews, as well as from journal entries by members of the company and other found texts. Company member Greg Barati.
My first interview was with Detective Sergeant King of the Laramie Police Department. At the start of the interview, he was sitting behind his desk sitting something like this. I was born and raised here. My family's third generation. Great-grandparents moved here in the early 1900s. We've had basically three, well, I guess my daughter makes a fourth generation, so quite a while. You know, it's a good place to live. Good people, lots of space. Now, all the towns in southern Wyoming are laid out in space because the railroad came through. Was how far you could go before having to refuel and rewater. And Laramie was a major stopping point. And that's why the towns are spaced out so far. You know, we're one of the largest states in the country and one of the least populated.
There's so much space between people and towns here. It's so much time for reflection.
Rebecca Hilliker, head of the theater department at the University of Wyoming.
You have an opportunity to be happy in your life here. I found that people here were nicer than in the Midwest, where I used to teach, because they were happy. They were glad the sun was shining, and it shines a lot here.
What you have is you have the old-time traditional type ranchers. Now, they've been here forever. You know, Laramie's been the hub where they've gotten their supplies and stuff like that.
Stewardship is one thing all our ancestors taught us.
Eileen Ankin, rancher.
You have to take care of the land, because if you don't, then you ruin it and you lose your living. So first things first, you have to take care of the land and do everything you can to improve.
I love it here.
Doc O'Connor, limousine driver.
You couldn't put me back in that mess out there back east. The best thing about it is the climate. The cold, the wind. Now they say that the Wyoming wind will drive a man insane, but guess what? It don't bother me. Well, some of the time it do, but most of the time it don't.
And then you have the university population.
I moved here after living in a couple of big cities.
Philip Dubois, president of the University of Wyoming.
I loved it there, but you'd have to be out of your mind to let your kids play out after dark. And here in the summertime, I let my kids play out until 11 o'clock at night. I don't even think twice about it.
And then you have the people who live in Laramie, basically.
I moved here from rural Texas.
Zachy Salmon, Laramie resident.
Now, in Laramie, if you don't know a person, you will definitely know someone that they know. So it can only be 1 degree removed at the most. And for me, I love it. I mean, I love to go to the grocery store because I get to visit with 4 or 5 or 6 people every time I go. And I don't really mind everyone knowing my business, because what's my business? My business is basically good.
I like the trains too. They don't bother me. Well, some of the time they do, but most of the time they don't, even though one comes by every 13 minutes out where I live.
Doc actually lives up in Bosler, but everybody in Laramie knows who he is. He's also not really a doctor.
They used to carry cattle, them trains. Now all they carry is diapers and cars.
I grew up in Cody, Wyoming.
April Silva, university student.
Laramie is a lot better than where I grew up. I get it that.
It's a good place to live. Good people, lots of space. Now, when that incident happened with that boy, a lot of press people came in. out to the crime scene. You know, it was a real beautiful day, real crisp and clear, and the sky was that blue that you know, you'll never be able to paint it. It's just sky blue. It's just gorgeous, and the mountains, a little snow on them, and this one reporter, lady person, she came up to me and she said,
Well, who found the boy? Who was out here anyway?
and I was like, you know, it's a really popular place for people to run, and mountain biking is really popular here, horseback riding, and it's just, well, it's close to town. She looked at me and she said,
Who the hell would want to run out here?
I'm thinking, lady, you're just missing the point. You know, all you gotta do is turn around, look at the mountains, smell the air, listen to the birds, just, well, take in what's around you. They were nothing but the story. I didn't feel judged, I felt that they were stupid, you know? They're missing the point. They're missing the whole point.
It's hard to talk about Laramie now. To tell you what Laramie means for us.
Jedediah Schultz.
If you were to ask me before, I would have told you Laramie is a beautiful, secluded town where you can have your own identity. A town with a strong sense of community. Everyone knows everyone. A town with a personality most larger cities are stripped of. Now after Matthew, Laramie's a town defined by an accident, a crime. We become Waco, we become Jasper. We're a noun, a definition, a sign. We may go get rid of that, but sure will take some time.
Journal entries, members of the company, Andy Paris.
Boyd just called saying he had an idea for his next theater project, but I noticed a somberness to his voice, so I asked him what it was about, and he said he wanted to do about a piece about what's happening in Wyoming.
Stephen Belber.
Lee told me the company was thinking of going out to Laramie to conduct interviews and that they wanted me to come, but I'm hesitant. I have no real interest in trying to attend unraveling.
Amanda Gronich.
I have never done anything like this in my life. I mean, how do you get people to talk to you? What do you ask?
Moises Kaufman.
The company has agreed that we should go to Laramie for a week and interview people. I'm a bit afraid of taking 10 people on a trip of this nature. Must make some safety rules. No one works alone. Everyone carries cell phones. Have made preliminary contact with Rebecca Hillica, head of the theater department at the University of Wyoming. She is hosting a party for us on our first night in Laramie and has promised to introduce us to possible interviewees.
I must tell you that when I first heard that you were thinking of coming here, when you first called me, I wanted to say, you've just kicked me in the stomach. Why are you doing this to me? But then I thought, that's stupid. You're not doing this to me. And more importantly, I thought about it and decided that we've had so much negative closure on this whole thing, and the students really need to talk. When this first happened, they started talking about it, and then the media descended and all the dialogue stopped. You know, I really love my students because they're free thinkers. And you may not like what they have to say, and you may not like their opinions because they can be very redneck. But they're honest and they're truthful. So there's a dynamic here with my students that I didn't have when I was in the Midwest or in North Dakota, because there was so much it's Puritanism that dictated how people looked at the world, that oftentimes they didn't have an opinion. You couldn't get them to express an opinion. So I'd rather have opinions I don't like and have that dynamic in education. There's a student I think you should talk to. His name is Jedediah Schultz.
I've lived in Wyoming my whole life. My family's been in Wyoming for all generations. Now, when it came time to go to college, my parents couldn't afford to send me to college. I wanted to study theater, and I knew that if I wanted to go to college, I had to get on a scholarship, and every year they had this competition, this Wyoming State High School competition. And I knew that if I didn't take first place in duets, I wouldn't get a scholarship. So I went to the theater department of the university looking for a good scene, and I talked to the professors, and I was like, I need a killer scene. And he was like, here you go, this is it. It was from Angels in America. And I read it, and I knew that if I did a good enough job, I could win first place. And when the time came, I told my parents that they'd come and see me in the competition. Now you have to understand, my parents come to everything. Every ball game, every hockey game, everything I've ever done. And they brought me to the room, and they sat me down, and they told me that if I did this scene in the competition, they wouldn't come and see it because they felt that it was wrong, that homosexuality was wrong. And they felt that strongly about it that they didn't want to come see their son do probably the most important thing he'd done in his life up to that point, and I didn't know what to do. I mean, I'd never gone against my parents' wishes before. I was kind of worried about it. But I decided to do it. And all I can remember of the competition was afterwards I went up to my scene partner and we shook hands, and there was a standing ovation. And oh man, it was amazing, and we won first place, and that's how come we can afford to be here at the university, because of that scene. And it was one of the greatest moments of my life. My parents were there to see it. And to this day, that was the one thing my parents never saw me do, and I keep thinking about it. I'm like, why did I do it? Because I'm not gay, so why did I oppose my parents? And I think the only honest answer I can give is that I just wanted to win. I mean, it's such a good scene. It's like the best scene. Do you know Mr. Kushner? Maybe you could tell him.
Company member Greg Perotti.
We arrived today at the Denver airport and drove to Laramie. The moment we crossed the Wyoming border, I swear I saw a buffalo. I also thought it was strange that the Wyoming sign said Wyoming, like no place on earth, instead of Wyoming, like no place else on earth.
Lee Fondakowski.
I stopped at a local inn for a bite to eat, and my waitress said to me,
Hi, my name's Debbie. I was born in 1954, and Debbie Reynolds was Big Ben, so there's a lot of us around, but I promise I won't slap you if you leave your elbows on the table.
Today, the company tried to explain to me, to no avail, what chicken fried steak was.
Now, are you from Wyoming, or are you just passing through?
we're just passing through.
Company member Barbara Pitts.
We arrived in Laramie tonight, just past the Welcome to Laramie sign, population 26,687. And the first thing to greet us was a Walmart. And in the dark, we could be on any main drag in America. Fast food chains, gas stations. But as we drove into the little downtown area by the railroad tracks, all the buildings looked like a turn-of-the-century western town. And as we passed the University Inn, on the sign where amenities such as heated pool and cable TV are usually touted, it said,
Haste is not a Laramie value.
Greg Perotti.
I met today with two longtime Laramie residents, Allison Mears and Marge Murray, two social service workers who saw me a thing or two.
Well, what Laramie used to be like when Marge was growing up. It's mostly rural.
Yeah, it was. I enjoyed it. You know, all my kids had horses.
Well, there was more land. You could have your horse, your cows, your little chickens, just have your little bit of acreage.
Yeah, I used to walk around the house in my all-togethers, do the housework while the kids were in school, and nobody could see me. And if they got that
Well,
close.
that is just their problem.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure I got that expression correct in your all-togethers.
Well, yeah, honey. Why wear clothes?
How's he gonna use that in his play?
So this was a big ranching town?
Not just ranching. This was a big railroad town at one time, but before they moved everything to Cheyenne and Green River and Omaha, because, was it in the 50s? Well, they had one big roundhouse here, and they had such a shop they could build a complete engine.
They did. My mom worked there.
Your mom worked in a roundhouse?
Yeah, she used to wash the engines, and her name was Minnie, so we used to sing that song for her. You know that song.
What song?
Run for the roundhouse, Minnie, they can't corner you there. Yeah.
But I'll tell you, Wyoming is bad in terms of jobs. I mean, the university has the big high whoop-de-doo jobs, but in Wyoming, unless you're professional, the bulk of the people are working minimum wage jobs.
Yeah, I've been in the service industry my whole life. Now I know everyone in town.
Oh, and she does.
And I do. And what it is in Laramie is a class distinction between the ones that are well-educated and the ones that are not. And the ones that are well-educated don't understand why the ones that are not don't get educated. And that's why I told you before, all my kids had to fight because their mother was a bartender. Never mind that I was the best damn bartender in town.
And she was.
And I was. It's not bragging, it's fact.
But here in Laramie, if it weren't for the university, we'd just be SOL.
What's SOL?
Well, do I have to say it? It's shit out of luck. He got it on his tape. You're getting an education today.
Yes, I am.
since I am a daughter on the sheriff's department. As for the whole gay issue, I really don't give a damn one way or the other. As long as they don't bother me, and even if they did, I would just say, no, thank you. And that's the attitude of most of the Laramie population. They might poke one if they were in a bar, I've been drinking, they might actually smack one in the mouth, but they just walk on about their business. Most of them just say, they would say, I don't swing that way, and move on. Laramie is live and let live.
I'd say that Marge does a lot more, except she's even willing to say, you have to respect her for that.
Well, depends where you're taking the story.
Oh, well, we still aren't sure yet, but when we're finished, we're trying to bring on to Laramie.
Then there are parts that I won't tell you.
Company member Tandy Harris.
Today, for the first time, we met someone who actually knew Matthew Shepard. Josh Seeger, a shop owner in town, referred to him as Matt.
Yeah, Matt used to come into my shop, that's how I knew him.
Now, it was the first time we heard him referred to as Matt instead of Matthew. Did you go by Matt to everyone?
Well, on the 2nd of October, I get a phone call about 10 after 7, and it's Matthew Shepard, and he said to me, can you pick me up on the corner of 3rd and Grand? So anyhow, I pull up to the corner, and I see Matthew Shepard, who, it's a little guy, about 5'2", soaking wet, bet you 97 pounds tops. They say he weighed 110, but I wouldn't believe it. They also said he was 5'5" in the newspapers, but this man, he was really only about 5'2", maybe even 5'1". So he comes up to the window, and I'm going to try to go in steps here so you can better understand the principles of this man. So he comes up to the window, and I say, are you Matthew Shepard? And he says, yes, I'm Matthew Shepard, but I don't want you to call me Matthew or Mr. Shepard. I don't want you to call me anything. My name is Matt, and I want you to know that we are going to go to a gay bar. Do you have a problem with that? And I said, how are you paying? Because the fact is, Laramie doesn't have any gay bars. And for that matter, neither does Wyoming. So he was hiring me to take him down to Fort Collins, Colorado, about an hour away. Matt was a blunt little chick. He always was. But I liked him. He was straightforward. See what I'm saying? Maybe gay, but straightforward.
I don't know, how does one person ever really tell about the other? You should really talk to my sister, Romaine. She was a very close friend of Matthew's.
We never called him Matthew, actually. Most of the time we called him Choo Choo, because we called him Matt Choo, and then we just called him Choo Choo. Whenever I think about Matt, I just think about his incredible beaming smile. He just walked into a room and just, and he'd smile at everyone. He just made you feel great. And he used to stare people down in the coffee shop because he liked to sit in the end seat so he could talk to me while I was working. And if someone was sitting there, he would sit and stare at them until they left. And then he would claim his spot. But Matt definitely had a political side to him. I mean, that's all his big interest was watching CNN, MSNBC. I mean, that's the only station I ever saw his TV tuned to. He was really smart in political affairs, but not so smart in common sense things. So he moved to Laramie to go to school.
Matthew was very shy when he first came in,
John Peacock, Matthew Shepard's academic advisor.
to the point of being somewhat mousy, I'd almost say. He was having some difficulties adjusting, but this was home for him, and he made that quite clear. And so his mousiness, his shyness, gave way to a person who was excited about the journey he was going to embark on. He was just figuring out human rights, how he was going to do that. And when that starts to happen, this person begins to bloom a little. He was starting to say, wow, there are opportunities for me here. There are things I can do. I can be important.
I actually spoke to Matt about 48 hours before his attack, and he told me that he joined the gay and lesbian group on campus and that he was really enjoying it. He was getting ready for Pride Week and whatnot. I mean, he was totally stoked about school. I think he was really happy about being there.
And in retrospect, I can only say this in retrospect, I think that's where he was headed, towards human rights, which only adds to the irony and tragedy of this.
Let me tell you something else here. There's more gay people in Wyoming than meets the eye. I know for a fact. And they're not particularly, what you call them, the queens, gay people, the queens that run around faggot type. No, they're the ones that'll throw bales of hay and jump on horses and ride them and brand them and kick ass. You see what I'm saying? Like, I always say, don't fuck with a Wyoming queer, because they will kick you in your fucking ass. But that's not the point of what I'm trying to say, because I know a lot of gay people in Wyoming. Well, I know a lot of people, period. I've been lived up here for some 40-odd years now, you see what I'm saying? I don't think Wyoming people give a damn one way or another if you're gay or straight. That's just what I just said. You have 8 men and 1 woman in the Wyoming bar, which is often the case. And you stop and think, who is gay and what? See what I'm saying? Now, geez, it don't take a big, intelligent mind to figure that one out.
My understanding when I first came here
Catherine Connolly.
is that I was the first out lesbian or gay faculty member on campus, and that was in 1992, so not that long ago. At my interview, they asked me what my husband did, and so I came out. Do you want to know a funny story? As a new faculty member, there's all these things you have to do. And so one day I was in my office and I noticed that this woman called, and I called her back thinking it was a health insurance phone call or something like that. And I said, you know, this is Kathy Connolly returning your phone call. And she said, oh, it's you. And I thought, this is bizarre. And she said, I hear you're gay. I hear you are. And I was like, uh-huh. And she said, I hear you came here as a couple. I'm one too. Not a couple, just a person. And so she was this kind of lesbian who knew I was coming and wanted to come over and meet me immediately. But then she later told me that there were other lesbians who wouldn't want to be seen with me, that I would irreparably taint them, that to be seen with me could be a problem.
When I moved here, I knew it was going to be hard as a gay man.
Jonas Sloniker.
But I kept telling myself, you know, people should live where they want to live. And there were so many times where I'd go down to Denver and I would go to gay bars. And people would ask where I'm from, and I'd say, Laramie, Wyoming. And I met so many men down there from Wyoming. So many gay men who grew up here, and they were like, that's not a place where I could live. How could you live there? I had to get out. But every once in a while I meet someone, oh, I miss Laramie. I mean, I really love it there. That's where I want to live. And I'm thinking, if that's where you want to live, then do it, you know? Imagine if more gay people lived in small towns. It is easier said than done, of course.
Today we are moving from our motel and heading for Best Western.
Moises Kaufman.
My only hope is that it is a better Western.
Amanda Grunch.
Today we divided up to go to different churches in the community. Lee and I got a Baptist church, and we were greeted outside the services by the Reverend himself, standing outside the chapel. This is what I remember from his sermon that morning. My dear brothers and sisters, we are gathered here today to hear the word of the Lord. I have a simple truth that I tell my colleagues, and I'm going to tell you today. The word is either sufficient or it is not. Now, scientists tell me that the world is 5 billion or 6 billion years old. After all, what's a billion years, give or take? The Bible tells me that human history is 6,000 years old. The word is either sufficient or it is not.
Ah, the sociology of religion in the West.
Stephen Mead Johnson, Unitarian minister.
Dominant religious traditions in this town, Baptist, Mormon, they're everywhere. It's not just Salt Lake, they're all over. They're like jam on toast down here.
The Mormon church has a little different thing going that irritates some folks.
Doug Laws, stake ecclesiastical leader for the Mormon Church.
And that is, we believe God still speaks to man today. It didn't just happen and some folks wrote it down in the Bible, but God still speaks to man today, and we believe that. We believe that the prophet of the church has the authority to receive inspiration and revelation from God.
So the spectrum would be on the left side of the panel. So far left that I am probably sitting by myself is me and the Unitarian Church. Unitarians are by and large humanists, many of whom are atheists. We're not even really sure we're a religion. And on the right side of that spectrum, to his credit, Father Roger Schmidt, Catholic priest, who is well established here, and God bless him, he did not equivocate at all when this happened. He hosted the vigil for Matthew that night.
Well, I was really jolted when we did the vigil because we wanted to get other ministries involved. And we called some of them and they were not going to get involved. It was like, we're just going to stand back and wait and see which way the wind is blowing on this one. And that angered me immensely. We were supposed to stand out as leaders in this community. I thought, wow, what is going on here?
God has set boundaries, and it's our responsibility to learn. What is it God wants? So you study your scripture, you look to your leaders, and you get a sense of what the bounds are. And once you learn what the bounds are, you get a sense of what's out of bounds. A proclamation came out of the family that said, a family is defined as one man, one woman, and children. It's a family. That's about as clear as you can state it. There's no sexual deviation in the Mormon Church. No leniency. We just think that it's out of bounds.
I'll warn you, you will be mocked. You will be ridiculed for the singularity of your faith. But you let the Bible be your guide. It's in there. It is all in there.
The Christian pastors, many of the conservative ones, were silent on this. Conservative Christians use the Bible to say, it says here in the Bible. And Americans believe, and they do, that the Bible is the Word of God. And how are you going to fight that?
I am a biblicist. That means that the Bible doesn't need me to be true. The Bible is true whether I believe it or not. The Word is either sufficient or it is not.
I came to Laramie on September 15th. I looked around, tumbleweed, cement factories, and I thought, what the hell am I doing in Wyoming? 3 weeks later, I found out what the hell I'm doing in Wyoming.
I had breakfast this morning with a university student named Zubaida Ullah. She is an Islamic feminist who likes to do things her own way.
Yeah, I've lived in Laramie since I was 4, and yes, my parents are from West India. 2 years ago, because I'm Muslim, I decided to start wearing a scarf, and that really changed my life in Laramie. Like, people always say things to me like, why do you have to wear that thing on your head? Like when I go to the grocery store, I'm not looking to give people Islam 101. You know what I mean? And so I'll be like, well, that's part of my religion. And they'll be like, and this is the worst part, because they'll be like, I know it's part of your religion, but why? And it's like, how am I supposed to go into the whole doctrine of physical modesty and my own personal relationship with the Lord standing there with my pop and my chips? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I find it so unreal that a group from New York will be writing a play about Laramie. And then I was picturing it. You're going to be in New York, on stage, acting like you're us. That's so weird.
Hello. Yes, hello. My name is Amanda Gronich, and I'm here in Laramie working with a theater company. I went to the Reverend's, your husband's, service on Sunday, and I was extremely interested in talking to him about his thoughts on a recent event.
Well, I don't think he'll want to talk to you. He has very biblical views about homosexuality. He doesn't condone that kind of violence, but he doesn't condone that kind of lifestyle, you know what I mean? And he's just been bombarded with the press after this happened. The media's been terrible about this whole thing.
Oh, I really understand. They must have just been terrible.
Yes, I think we're all hoping this just goes away.
Well, is there any way I could call back later to speak with your husband just briefly?
Well. All right. You can call back tonight around 9 o'clock.
Thank you so much. I'll do that.
Today, Barbara and I went to the Fireside Bar, which is the last place Matthew was seen in public.
The Fireside definitely feels like a college bar with a couple of pool tables and a stage area for karaoke. Still, the few regulars in the late afternoon were hardly the college crowd.
First person we talked to was Matt Mickelson, the owner.
My great-grandfather moved here in 1862, and he owned Laramie's first opera house. It was called the Old Blue Front. And in 1870, Louisa Grandma Swain cast the first women's ballot in any free election in the world. That's why Wyoming's the equality state. So what I want to do is reestablish my bar business as the Old Blue Front Opera House and Good Time Emporium. You know, I want to have a restaurant, I want to have a pool hall, I want to have a gift shop, and do all that shit, you know? Every night, ladies' night, you know what I'm saying? So the Fireside is the first step towards the Old Blue Front Opera House and Good Time Emporium.
So, what about the night Matthew Shepard was here?
We had karaoke that night, about 20 or 30 people here. Matthew came in and was sitting right where you are, just kind of hanging out. If you want to talk to someone, you should really talk to Matt Galloway. He was bartending that night. You'd have to meet him. His character stands for itself. Hey, is Galloway bartending tonight?
Okay, I'm gonna make this brief, quick, get it over with, but it will be everything, factual. Just the facts. Okay, here we go. 10 o'clock I clock in, usual time, Tuesday nights, 10:30. Matthew Shepard shows up alone, sits down, orders a Heineken.
Phil Labrie, friend of Matthew Shepard.
Matt liked to drink Heineken. Even though you had to pay $9.50 for a six-pack, he'd always drink the same beer.
So what can I tell you about Matt? We had 100 customers like him, it'd be the most perfect bar I'd ever been in, and nothing about sexual orientation. Absolute mannerisms, manners, politeness, intelligence, taking care of me, as in tips, everything. Conversation, dress nice, clean cut. You know, some people just come in, sit down, please, thank you, that type of thing. Offers intellect within their vocabulary. So he just kicks it there, didn't seem to have any worries or like he was waiting on anyone, just enjoy his drink and the company around. Now, approximately 11:30, 11:45, 11:30, Aaron McKinney and Russell Henderson come in. I didn't know their names then, but they're the accused. They're the perps, they're the accused. So they came in very stone-faced, you know, like dirty, grungy, rude, gimme, that type of thing. And as you know, they came up to the beer. Sorry. They came up to the bar and paid for a pitcher in dimes and quarters, which is something, I mean, you don't forget that. $5.50 in dimes and quarters, that's a freaking nightmare. So, Aaron and Russell, they didn't seem too intoxicated at all. They just kind of took the pitcher with them back into the pool area and kept to themselves. But a few minutes later, about a half hour later, I noticed they were kind of walking around, no beer, and I remember thinking, I'm not going to ask them if they want another one because obviously they just paid for that pitcher in dimes and quarters, so I got a pretty good feeling they don't have any more money.
Romaine Patterson. Money meant nothing to Matthew because he came from a lot of it. And he would like hand over his wallet in like 2 seconds because money meant nothing. His shoes might have meant something. They can say it was robbery. I don't buy it. For even an iota of a second.
Next thing I knew, Aaron and Russell had been talking to Matthew Shepard.
Aaron said some guy came up to him and said that he was gay and wanted to get with Aaron and Russ.
Kristen Price, girlfriend of Aaron McKinney.
He said that he was straight and he got aggravated with it and told him he didn't want to have anything to do with him and walked off. He said that as when him and Russ went into the bathroom and decided to pretend that they were gay so they could get him in the truck and rob him. They wanted to teach him a lesson not to mess with straight people.
Okay, no, they stated that he came on to them, that he approached them. I absolutely, positively disbelieve and refute that statement, 100%. Refute it, I'm going to give you 2 reasons why. One, character reference. Why would he come on to them? He wasn't approaching anyone else at the bar. They say he's gay. He was a flaming gay. He's going to come on to people like that. He wasn't coming on to me. Hello? He's going to come on to people like that. I don't believe it. Two, territorialism, I guess is the word I'll use for this, and that's the fact that Matt was just sitting there, and Aaron and Russell were in the pool area, and upon their first interaction, they were in Matt's area, in the area that Matt had been seeing all night, so who approached who by that?
But Matt was the kind of person, like he would never not talk to someone for any reason. If someone started talking to him, he'd just be like, blah, 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 blah. You know, he never had a problem just starting a conversation with anybody.
Matt did feel lonely a lot of times. Me knowing that and knowing how gullible he could be, he would have walked right into it. The fact that he was alone that night without any friends only made him that much more vulnerable.
Okay, so the only thing is, and this is what I'm testifying to, because I'm also basically the only key eyewitness in this case. So what I'm testifying is that I saw Matthew Shepard leave. I saw two individuals leave with Matthew. I didn't see their faces, but I saw the back of their heads. And at the same time, Aaron and Russell were no longer around, so you do the math.
Actually, I think the DJ was the last one to see him on his way out that night. Gave him a cigarette or something. His name is Shadow.
Yeah, I was the last person that talked to before the fireside that night. I was bullshitting around with my shit, and then he came up to me. I stopped him actually, and he was like, "Hey, Shadow, da da da," and I was like, "What, man? You get ready to go?" And he was like, "Yeah, man," and this and that. And then I seen them guys looking over at him. You know, I seen them guys looking over. And I talked to him after like a good 10 minutes, and then I seen them guys, you know, they looking over, getting like anxious and worried and shit. You know, like they want to go and shit. I mean, when they left in like a small truck, like a black truck. I mean, I didn't think nothing of it, you know. I didn't think them guys were gonna be like that.
A friend of Aaron McKinney's.
Oh, I knew Aaron well. Aaron was a good kid. I liked him a lot. That's why I was so shocked when I heard this. I'm like, I knew he was living out far with his girl at his trailer house, and they just started dating last summer, and then they must have gotten pregnant right as they started dating, because then they had a kid. And I mean, he was only 21 years old, and he was running around with a kid. But you see, that's like the type of person Aaron was, just like he was always running around in like big clothes and stuff like Tommy Hilfiger and Polo and Gucci and stuff. At the time I knew him, he was just a kid. He wanted to fit in, trying to fit in, acting tough, acting cool. But you could get in his face about it, and he would back down like he was some sort of scared kid.
Sherry Anderson. Russell was sweet. He was the one who was the Eagle Scout. His entire presence was just quiet and sweet. And I know people snap and whatever, but it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, it wasn't like we had a real intimate relationship. I was his landlord. But I worked with him at the chuck wagon, and I saw him at the Christmas party, and he was drunk out of his mind. I mean, we pretty much all were party time, but he wasn't belligerent, and he didn't change. His personality didn't change. He was still the same meek Russell. And I even remember him coming up to me and asking me, "Sherry, when you get a chance, can I have this dance?" And we never got around to doing it. And now I just sort of want to shake him, you know? What were you thinking? What in the hell were you thinking?
Vince, I've been out there 4 times. I've taken visitors. That place has become a pilgrimage site. Clearly that is a very powerful, personal experience for someone. And you can't help but think of Matthew up there for 18 hours in nearly freezing temperatures. That you up there, isolated. And the God, my God, why have you forsaken me? Comes to mind.
Company member Greg Karate.
Bill Labrie, a friend of Matthew's, took us to the fence this morning. I broke down in there and I touched it. I feel such a strong kinship with this young man. On the way back, I made sure no one could see me crying.
Lee Fondakowski. Greg was crying on the way back. I couldn't bring myself to tears, but I felt the same way. I have an interview this afternoon with Aaron Kreifels. He's the boy who found Matthew at the fence. I don't think I'm up for it today. Let's see if someone else can do it.
Well, I took off on my bicycle around 5 o'clock p.m. on Wednesday from my dorm. I just kind of felt like going for a ride. So I go up to the top of Cactus Canyon, and I'm not super familiar with that area. So on my way back down, I'm kind of just picking which way to go, which now it just makes me think that God wanted me to find him there, because there was no way that I was going to go that way. So I'm in some deep ass sand. I wanted to turn around, but for some reason I didn't. I went along, and there was this rock on the ground, and I just drilled it. I went over the handlebars and ended up on the ground. So I got up, and I started to dust myself off, and I looked around, and I noticed something, which ended up to be Matthew. He was just lying there by a fence. And I just thought it was a scarecrow, I thought Halloween's coming up. I thought it was a Halloween gag, so I got my bike and I walked it over to the fence. It was a buck type fence, and I got closer. And I noticed his hair. And that was a major key to me noticing it was a human being. Was his hair. Because I just thought it was a dummy, I even saw his chest going up and down, and I still thought it was a dummy. But when I saw his hair, I knew it was a human being. So I ran to the nearest house. I ran as fast as I could and called the police.
I responded to the call.
Officer Reggie Blue.
When I got there, at first the only thing I could see was partially somebody's feet, and I got out of my vehicle and raced over. I seen what appeared to be a young man, 13, 14 years old because he was so tiny, laying on his back, and he was tied to the bottom end of the pole. I did the best I could. The gentleman that was laying on the ground, Matthew Shepard, he had dry blood all over his head. There was dry blood underneath him, and he was barely breathing. He was doing the best he could. I was going to try and breathe for him, but I couldn't get his mouth open. His mouth wouldn't open for me. He was covered in, like I said, partially dry blood and blood all over his face. The only place where he did not have any blood on him, on his face, was where it appeared that he had been crying down his face. His head was distorted, it did not look normal. It looked as if he had a real harsh head wound.
I was working in the emergency room the night Matthew Shepard was brought in. I don't think any of us have seen a patient in Matt's condition for a very long time. Those of us who have worked in big city hospitals have seen this kind of injury, but there are those of us who have not worked in big city hospitals. You can expect that here. You expect to see that kind of injury from a car going down a hill that's 80 miles an hour. You expect to see gross injury from something like that, this horrendous, terrible thing. You don't expect to see it from a person doing this to another person. But the ambulance report said it was a beating, so we knew.
There was nothing I could do. If there was anything that I could have done to help him, then I would have done it. But there was nothing, and I was standing there, yelling at him at the top of my lungs, trying to get something out of him, like, hey, wake up, hello! But he didn't respond. He didn't flinch. He didn't anything.
His hands were tied, thumbs out, in what we call a cuffing position, the way we handcuff people. He was bound with a real thin white rope. Went around the bottom of the pole about 4 inches up off the ground. his shoes were missing. He was tied extremely tight, so I used my boot knife and tried to slip it between the rope and his wrist. I had to be extremely careful to not harm Matthew any further.
Now your first thought is you hope that it's someone from out of town who comes through and beats someone else. Things like this happen, shit happens, and it happens in Laramie. But when someone is beaten repeatedly, now certainly that is something that offends us. I think that's a good word. It offends us.
He was tied so tight. I finally got my knife through there, and then I'm sorry. We rolled him onto his left side. When we did that, he quit breathing. Immediately we rolled him back onto his back, and that was just enough of an adjustment. Gave me enough room to cut him free there. I've seen the EMS unit trying to get to the location. Once the ambulance got there, we put a neck collar on him, skid him onto a backboard, and got him from under the fence. And I've seen Rob drive the ambulance to Atkinson Hospital's emergency room.
Now the strange thing is, not 20 minutes before Matthew Shepard was brought in, Aaron McKinney was brought in by his girlfriend. He had gotten in a fight later that night back in town, so I'm working on Aaron, and then the ambulance comes with Matthew. So I tell Aaron to wait, and I go to treat Matthew. And now at this point, I don't know there's a connection at all. So I tell Aaron to wait, and I go treat Matthew, and there's Aaron in one room of the ER, and Matthew in the other room, 2 doors down. Now as soon as we saw Matthew, it was clear his care was beyond our capabilities. Called a neurosurgeon at Poudre Valley Hospital, and he was on the road in an hour and 15 minutes, I think.
They showed me a picture. Days later, I saw a picture of Matthew. I would have never recognized him.
2 days later, I found the connection, and I was very struck. They were 2 kids. They were both my patients, and they were 2 kids. I took care of both of them, both their bodies, and for a brief moment I wondered, is this how God feels when he looks down at us? We're all his children, our bodies, our souls, and I felt a great deal of compassion for both of them.
This is John Peacock, Matthew's academic advisor.
Well, the news reports started trickling out on Thursday, but no names were mentioned. The brutality of the crime was not mentioned. All that was mentioned was that a young man, Laramie man, was found beaten on the prairie, basically. Later that evening, his name was mentioned. It's like that's not the Matthew Shepard I know. That's not my student. That's not this person I've been meeting with.
I was in the coffee shop,
Romaine Patterson.
and someone came up to me, and they said, I don't know much, but they said there's been a young man who's been beaten out in Laramie, and they say his name is Matthew Shepard. He said, do you think this could be our Matthew Shepard? And I said, well, yeah, it sounds like it could be our Matthew Shepard. So I called my sister Trish, and I was just like, tell me what you know. Just I need to know anything that you know, because I don't know anything.
So I'm on the phone with my sister, and that's when the whole story comes up on Channel 5 News. And it's just like, boom.
And the news reports kept rolling in. Young University of Wyoming student, his age, his description. It's like, oh my God.
And I felt sick. It's just instantly sick to my stomach, and I had to tell Romaine, yes, it was your friend. Yes, it was Matthew.
Well, I'll tell you what is overwhelming.
Matt Galloway.
Friday morning, I first find out about it. I go to class and come out, and boom, there it is in the branding iron. So I immediately go to the nearest newsstand and buy a copy of the Laramie Boomerang because I want more details. So I buy that and go home. Before I can even open the paper, my boss calls and he's like,
Did you hear what happened?
I go, yeah.
Was he in the bar Tuesday night?
I'm like, yes, he was.
You've got to come down to the bar right now. We've got to talk about this. We've got to discuss what's going to go on.
By this time, I was starting to get upset. But still, the severity wasn't even out yet.
Well, it was Thursday afternoon.
Rulon Stacy at Poudre Valley Hospital.
We received a call. We just got this kid from Wyoming, and it looks like he may have been the victim of a hate crime. We had several newspaper reporters here asking questions, and so we decided we need one spokesperson. Well, as CEO, I'll take care of that, and we'll try to gather as much information as possible.
And then I watched it on the 10 o'clock news that night, where they started speaking about the nature and the seriousness of it.
So I'm on the phone with Mickelson and he's like,
You've got to go to the arraignment right now and identify these guys and make sure they're in the bar.
so we go to the arraignment.
Our focus today turns to Laramie, Wyoming, in the Albany County Courthouse, where Aaron James McKinney and Russell Arthur Henderson are being tried for the brutal beating of Matthew Shepard, a 21-year-old gay University of Wyoming student.
The arraignment was on Friday, right around lunchtime, and I said, I'm just going. It's down the street, so I just walked a couple blocks and I went. Has anybody told you about the arraignment? They were probably 100 people from town and as much news media by that point. More details had come out that the perpetrators were kids, local kids that everybody in this town had some relationship to. And I think what everybody was waiting, they were waiting on pins and needles for what would happen when the perpetrators walked in. And what happened, they walked in their orange jumpsuits and their shackles, and you could hear a pin drop. It was incredibly solemn, and many people were teary by this point. But then the judge walked in and she did a reading. It was like a reading of what the prosecution had, and it was just a statement of facts. And the statement of facts read,
The essential facts are that Aaron James McKinney and Russell Arthur Henderson met Matthew Shepard at the Fireside Bar. And after Mr. Shepard confided that he was gay, both subjects deceived Mr. Shepard into leaving with them in their vehicle to a remote area. Upon arrival at said area, both subjects tied their victim to a buck fence, robbed him, tortured him, and beat him. Both defendants were later contacted by members of the Laramie Police Department who observed inside the cab of their vehicle a credit card and pair of black patent leather shoes belonging to the victim, Matthew Shepard.
I don't think there was a single person in that room who wasn't crying by the end of it. It lasted 5 minutes, but it kept getting more and more horrific. Finally ended with,
Said defendants left the victim begging for his life. Sergeant King.
How did this happen? I think a lot of people don't understand. Really, I don't understand how someone could do something like this. You know, we have one of the most vocal populations of gay people in the state. And that's pretty much live and let live.
Jeffrey Lockwood, Laramie resident.
My secret hope was that they were from somewhere else. Because then you can create distance. We don't grow children like that here. Well, it's pretty clear we do grow children like that here.
so that was the arraignment. My response, pretty catatonic. Not sleeping, not eating. Don't leave me alone right now.
More and more details came in about the sheer brutality, motivation, how this happened, and then quite frankly, the media descended and there was no time to reflect on it anymore.
Laramie, Wyoming, often referred to as the gem city of the plains, is now in the eye of the storm. The cowboy state has its share of rednecks and galleons, but no more per capita than New York, California, or
People that think that the Matthew Shepard's exception to the rule really
anything but stuff.
on a daily basis.
Business as Matthew Shepard knew, and all his friends know, to be gay in cowboy country.
It was huge, yeah. It was herds, and we're talking hundreds of people, which puts a huge dent in this town's population. There's news reporters everywhere, news trucks everywhere on campus, everywhere in the town, and we're not used to that type of attention. We're not used to that type of exposure.
Tiffany Edwards, local reporter. These people are predators. Like this one journalist actually caught one of the judges at the bathroom at the urinal. It was like asking him questions. And the judge was like, well, excuse me, can I please have some privacy? And this journalist was like offended that he asked for privacy. I mean, this is not how journalism started. Like, the good, you know?
I'll tell you what, when hard copy came and taped me, I taped them at the exact same time. I have every word that I ever said on tape. So if they ever try anything funny, they better watch their fucking ass.
Wyoming Governor Jim Geringer, a first-term Republican up for re-election.
I am outraged and sickened by the heinous crime committed to Matthew Shepard. I would like to extend my most heartfelt sympathies to the family.
Governor, you haven't pushed hate crime legislation in the past.
I would like to urge the people of Wyoming against overreacting in a way that gives one group special rights over others. We will wait and see if the vicious beating and torture of Matthew Shepard was motivated by hate.
Well, you've got the beginning of this news story where they've got the graphics in the background and they've got murder in Wyoming and Wyoming's dripping red like it's got blood on it or something. And it's like, what is this? So this is sensationalism. And we're here going, wait a minute. We had these guys in jail in less than a day. I think that's pretty damn good.
And for us to be more or less maligned,
Eileen and Gil Angan.
that we're not a good community, and we are. The majority of people here are good people.
You get bad apples every once in a while, and I think the gay community took this as an advantage. This is a good time for us to exploit.
Bill McKinney, father of the accused.
Had this been a heterosexual these two boys decided to take out and rob, this never would have made the national news. Now my son is guilty before he's even had a trial.
But I do think that the media actually held people accountable because, you know, they made people think. Because people were sitting in their homes, like watching TV and listening to CNN and watching Dan Rather and going, well, Jesus Christ, well, that's not how it is here. Well, how is it here?
Matthew Shepard, medical update, at 3 p.m., Saturday, October 10th.
Well, by this point, I looked out there and where there had been 2 or 3 reporters, there must have been 10 or 15 still photographers, another 20 or 30 reporters, and 10 video cameras. The parents just arrived, and I had barely spoken with them. I looked out and I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Matthew Shepard was admitted in critical condition approximately 9 p.m. October 7th. When he arrived, he was unresponsive and breathing support was being provided. Matthew's major injuries consisted of hypothermia and a fracture from behind his head to just in front of the right ear. This has caused bleeding in the brain as well as pressure on the brain. He also had several lacerations on his head, face, and neck. Matthew's temperature has fluctuated over the past 24 hours, ranging from 98 to 106 degrees. We have had difficulty controlling Matthew's temperature. Matthew's parents arrived at 7 p.m. October 9th and are now at his bedside. The following is a statement from them. First of all, we would like to thank the American public for their kind thoughts for Matthew and their fond wishes for his speedy recovery. We appreciate your prayers and goodwill, and we know it is something that Matthew would appreciate as well. We also have a special request for the media. Matthew is very much in need of his family at this time, and we ask you to respect his privacy as well as ours so we can focus all of our efforts, thoughts, and love on our son. Thank you very much.
Coach Stacy!
Both Aaron McKinney and Russell Henderson pled not guilty to charges. Their girlfriends, Kristen Price and Chastity Paisley, also pled not guilty after being charged as accessories after the fact. On our next trip to Laramie, we spoke with the Chief Investigating Officer of the case, Detective Sergeant Rob Debris of the Alvin County Sheriff's Department.
Well, I guess the thing that bothered me the most, going to Clear Valley where Matthew was, the thing that bothered me the most was seeing him, touching him. As a homicide detective, you see bodies. This kid is sitting there, fighting for his life, trying to make it. I wanted to start with a book, you know?
I keep seeing that picture in my head when I found him,
Aaron Kreifels.
and it's not pleasant whatsoever. I don't want it to be there. I want to, like, get it out, you know? That's the biggest thing for me, is seeing that picture. And I guess it's just kind of unbelievable to me that I happen to be the one that found him. Because the biggest thing with me, with, like, my religion is, why did God want me to find him?
I know how to take care of myself, and I was irrationally terrified.
Catherine Connolly.
So what that means is not letting my 12-year-old son walk the streets. Seeing a pickup truck do a U-turn and thinking it's coming after me. Having to stop because I am shaking so badly. And in fact, that pickup truck didn't come after me. But my reaction was to have my heart in my mouth.
Ultimately, no matter how you dice it, I did have an opportunity.
Matt Galloway.
If I had amazing hindsight of 2020 to have stopped what occurred, and I keep thinking I should have known this, I should have been talking to this guy, and I didn't have my head down for 20 seconds while I was washing those dishes, things I could have done. What the hell was I thinking?
So you do a lot of studying. You spend hours and hours and hours. You study and study and study, talking to your officers, making sure they understand, talking to your witness again, and always coming back to, I get the splash of Matthew. I wanted it so tight that there was no way they're going to get out of this.
One of the things that happened when I got to the fence,
Reggie Flutie.
there was just such an overwhelming amount of blood. And we try to wear protective gloves, you know, but we had a cheap sheriff at the time who bought us shit gloves, you know, you put them on, and they keep breaking, so finally you just run out of gloves, you know, so you think, don't hesitate. You know, that's what Shavana tells you all the time. Don't hesitate. So you just keep moving and trying to help Matthew and find an airway, and you know that's what you do, you know.
The thing I wasn't telling you before, Greg, is that Reggie is my daughter.
Marge Murray.
And when she said she wanted to be a police officer, well, I thought there was not a better job for her. She knew how to handle whatever came her way.
Probably a day and a half later, the hospital called me and told me that Matthew had HIV. And the doctor said you've been exposed, and you've had a bad exposure because you see, I'd been building a lean-to for my llamas, and so my hands had a bunch of open cuts on them. So I was kind of screwed, you know, and you think, oh shoot, you know,
Would you like to talk about losing sleep?
so I said to the doctor, okay, what do I do? And the doctor said, get up here, so I got up there and I started the ATZ drugs immediately.
Now, that's a medication, I'm told, that if administered 36 hours after your exposure can maybe stop your getting the disease.
That's a mean, nasty medicine. Me, I lost 10 pounds and a lot of my hair. Yeah.
And quite frankly, I wanted to lash out at somebody. Not Matthew. Please understand that. Not one of us was mad at Matthew, but maybe wanted to squeeze McKinney's head off and I think about Henderson too, and how two absolutely human beings can cause so much pain for so many people. It's been just awful for my whole family, but mostly for her and for her kids.
I think it brought home to my girls what their mom does for a living.
Reggie, you know what I'm going to tell you now.
And my parents kept saying the same thing.
You are quitting this damn job.
And it's just a parent thing, you know, because they're awful proud of you because you do a good job, whether it's handling a drunk or handling a case like this. But you're, you know, they don't want you getting hurt. So.
Like I said, there's a right way and a wrong way. Then there's Reggie's way.
So finally I said, oh, for God's sakes, lighten up, Francis.
You are so stubborn.
They say I'm stubborn, and I don't believe them. I just think, okay, I've heard your opinion, and now here's mine. I'm 39 years old. You know, what are they going to do, spank me?
Reggie, don't give me any ideas.
It'd be pretty funny, you know? What can they say?
I just hope she doesn't go before me. I don't think I could handle that.
University President Philip Dubois.
Well, this is a young person who, after reading my statement on the Denver Post story, sent me an email to me directly and said,
You and the straight people of Laramie and Wyoming are guilty of the beating of Matthew Shepard, just as the Germans who looked the other way are guilty of the deaths of the Jews, the gypsies, and the homosexuals. You have taught your straight children to hate their gay and lesbian brothers and sisters. Unless and until you acknowledge that this is not just a random occurrence, not just the work of a couple of random crazies, then you have Matthew's blood on your hands.
I can't begin to tell you what that does to you. You can't possibly know what I'm thinking. You can't possibly know what this has done to me, and to my family, and to my community.
That first week alone, vigils for Matthew Shepard were held in Laramie, Denver, Fort Collins, and Colorado Springs. Soon after, in Detroit, Chicago, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., Nashville, Atlanta, Minneapolis, and Portland, Maine, among others. In Los Angeles, 5,000 people gathered. And in New York City, a political rally ended in civil disobedience and hundreds of arrests. And the Poudre Valley Hospital website received close to 1 million visitors from across the country and around the world, all expressing hope for Matthew's recovery. Matthew Shepard, medical update at 9 a.m., Sunday, October 11th.
As of 9 a.m. today, Matthew Shepard remains in critical condition. Family continues to emphasize that the media respects their privacy. Family would also like to thank the American public for their kind thoughts and concerns for Matthew.
There are certain things when I sit in church.
Jedediah Schultz.
And the Reverend will tell you flat out that he thinks homosexuality is wrong, and I don't know. I think I'm going through changes, and I don't know enough about certain things to make a decision that says homosexuality is right, when you've been raised your whole life that it's been wrong. And I think in religious terms, God didn't mean for it to happen that way. But I don't hate homosexuals. I mean, I'm not going to like persecute them or anything. I'm just not going to let that stuff get between me and the other person, you know?
Well, it's preached in schools that being gay is okay and yada yada yada.
Conrad Miller.
And if my kids asked me, I'd sit them down and I'd say, this is what gay people do. This is what animals do, okay? I tell them, this is the lifestyle, this is what these people do. And I tell them that's exactly why I believe it's wrong.
There's more gay people around than what you think.
Murdoch.
Doesn't bother anybody because most of them that are gay or lesbian, they know damn well who to talk to. Some people are saying he made a pass at them. You don't mess with regular people. I'm not excusing their actions, but it made me feel better because it was partially Matthew's fault and partially the guys who did it. You know, maybe it was 50-50.
Yes, as a lesbian, I was more concerned for my safety. Exactly, Sam. I think we all were, and I think it's because somewhere inside we all know it could happen to any of us at any time. I mean, I would be afraid to walk down the street and show any sort of physical affection from a partner. You just don't do that here in Laramie.
Well, there's this whole idea. You leave me alone, I leave you alone.
Jonas Swanaker.
And it's even in some of the Western literature, you know? We'll live and let live. That is such crap. I mean, my friends bring that up. Even my gay friends say that sometimes. And I'm like, that is crap, you know? I mean, basically, what that boils down to is if I don't tell you I'm a fag, you won't beat the crap out of me. That's a great philosophy? What's so great about that?
We went to the candle visual,
Zubaida Ula.
and it felt so good to be with people who felt like shit. I kept thinking, I don't deserve to feel this bad. But then somebody got up there and he said blah, 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 and I'm saying that wrong. But he basically said, come on guys, let's show the whole world that Laramie's not this kind of town. But it is this kind of town. If it wasn't this kind of town, then why did it happen here? Because it happened here, it's like, because that's a lie. It happened here, so how can it not be a town where that kind of thing doesn't happen? It's like looking at an Escher painting and getting all confused. It's totally circular logic. Like, how can you even say that? And we have to mourn this. We have to be sad. We live in a town, a state, a country, where shit like this happens. And these people, they're trying to distance themselves from this crime. And we need to own this crime, because we're like this. We are like this. We are like this.
I was at the Fireside Bar one afternoon and I ran into two friends of Aaron McKinney, Shannon and Jen. You guys knew Aaron well, right?
Yeah, we both did. When I first found out, I thought it was awful. I mean, I don't know if he was fucked up or coming down or what, but I mean, that Matthew had money. Shit, he had better clothes than I did. Matthew was a little rich bitch.
Okay, you shouldn't call him a rich bitch though, that's not right.
I mean, I'm not saying he's a bad person or anything. I mean, he was just at the wrong place, at the wrong time, said the wrong thing, and I don't know, I won't lie to you. There have been times when I've been so messed up on meth, I've thought about going out and robbing. I mean, never did, but yeah, it's there. It's easy money.
Aaron's done that thing before. I mean, they both have. I know one night they went out to Cheyenne to go do it, and they came back with like probably $300. I mean, I don't know if they ever chose like gay people as their particular targets before or whatever, but anyone that looked like they had a lot of money and like they could like outnumber or like overpower or whatever, that's fair game.
Do you think there was any homophobia at all that contributed to some of it?
Well, probably. I mean, look, it probably would have pissed him off that Matthew was gay. He didn't like. Okay, look, the gay people that I've seen him interact with, he was fine. You know, as long as they didn't hit on him, as long as he didn't come up.
As long as they didn't do it in front of him.
Do you get the impression he knew other gay people?
I mean, I'm sure he knew people that were gay. I mean, he used to work up at KFC, and there's a couple people there that, yeah. But, like, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, because half the people I know in Laramie are gay.
What would you guys say to Aaron right now if you were here?
First of all, I want to know if he'd ever do any more tweak.
Okay, if I saw Aaron right now, I'd just be like, man, why did you fuck up like that? I want to make sure he's okay in there, though. I'm sure he is. I probably just want to, like, hang out with him.
Smoke a bowl with him.
Oh, I bet he wants one so bad.
You guys both went to Laramie High?
Well, I mean, yeah, can't you tell we're a product of our society?
On a day that is traditionally given over to nothing more profound than collegiate exuberance and the fortunes of the University of Wyoming football team, this community on the High Plains had a very different kind of homecoming Saturday, as many searched their souls in the wake of an apparent, vicious, anti-gay hate crime. University President Philip Dubois.
This is homecoming weekend, and there are a lot of people in town. There's a parade scheduled, and the students had organized to tag on the back of the parade behind the banner supporting Matt's. They were all wearing the armbands that the students had created.
I live in the center of town,
Harry Woods.
and my apartment has windows on two opposite ends. One goes north and one goes south. And that is exactly the homecoming parade route. Now, on the day of the homecoming parade, I had a cast on my leg because of a fall. So I was very disappointed because I really wanted to walk with the people who were marching for Matthew. But I couldn't. So I watched from my window, and it was, I'm 52 years old and I'm gay. I've lived here for many years and I've seen a lot. So I was very moved when I saw the tag at the end of the homecoming parade. About 100 people marching behind a banner for Matthew Shepard. So the parade went down the block to make a U-turn, and I went to the other end of my apartment to wait for it to come south down the other street.
I was right up there in front where they were holding the banner for Matthew. Let me tell you, I've never had goosebumps so long in my life. I mean, it was incredible. A mass of people, families, mothers holding their 6-year-old kids, tying these armbands on these 6-year-old kids and trying to explain to them why they should be wearing an armband. It was absolutely one of the most beautiful things I've ever done in my life.
About 10 minutes went by, and sure enough, the parade started coming down the street. And I noticed the most incredible thing. As the parade came down the street, the number of people marching for Matthew Shepard had grown 5 times. There were 500 people marching for Matthew. 500 people. Can you imagine? The tag at the end was larger than the entire parade, and people kept joining in. You know what? I started to cry. Tears were streaming down my face. And I thought, thank God I got to see this moment. And my second thought was, thank you, Matthew.
Well, I'm not really involved per se. I have a husband on the sheriff's department, so that's really the only way I've known about it. When I first found out, I thought it was just horrible. I mean, nobody deserves that. I don't care who you are. I can't. But the other thing that was not brought out at the same time that happened, that highway patrolman was killed, and there was nothing. They didn't say anything about him or the old man that killed him. He was driving, and he shouldn't have been driving, and he killed him. And here's one of ours, and it's just this little piece in the paper. You know, my husband worked with him. He was brand new on the force. And we lost one of our guys, and it's just this little piece in the paper. And a lot of it is my feeling that the media is making Matthew Shepard into some kind of saint or a martyr, and I don't think he was. I don't think he was that pure. Now, I didn't know him personally, but there's just so many things I found out. It's scary, you know, about his character and his AIDS and a few other things. And just the type of person he was. He was just a barfly. And I think he pushed himself around. I think he flaunted it. Now, everyone's got problems, but why they exemplified him, I don't know. What's the difference if you're gay? A hate crime is a hate crime. If you murder someone, you hate him. Doesn't matter if you're gay or a prostitute or whatever. I don't understand. I don't understand.
Company member Lee Fonkowski.
This is one of the last days on our second trip to Laramie. Andy and I have been conducting interviews nonstop, and we are exhausted.
At 7:30 today, we're supposed to be with Father Roger, and to tell you the truth, I was hoping we could just skip it all together, but we gotta see it through to the end, so here we go. 7:30 a.m., 2 queers and a Catholic priest.
Matthew Shepard has served us well. You realize that? He has served us well. And I don't mean to condemn Matthew to perfection, but I cannot think of anyone who has done more for this community than Matthew Shepard. And I'm not going to sit here and say I was this bold guy, no fear. I was scared. I was very vocal in this community when this happened, and I thought, should we call a bishop and ask for his permission to do the vigil? And I was like, hell no, I'm not going to do that. His permission is not maybe correct. Do you realize that? And I'm not knocking bishops, but what is correct is correct. You were just here on a search, though. I will say this. I will trust that if you write a play of this, that you say it right. You need to do your best to say it correct. Don't make matters worse. You think violence is what they did to Matthew? Well, they did do violence to Matthew, but every time you were called a fag, or you're called a les, or whatever.
Or a dyke.
A dyke, yes, a dyke. Do you realize that is violence? That is the seed of violence. And I would resent it immensely if you used anything I said to cultivate that kind of violence, even in its smallest form. I would resent it immensely. You need to know that.
Thank you, Father, for saying that.
Just deal with what is true. You know what is true. You need to do your best to say it correct.
Andrew Gomez.
I was in there. I was in jail with Aaron in December. I got thrown in over Christmas. Assault and battery, 2 counts. I don't want to talk about it. But so we're sitting there eating our Christmas dinner. I'm trying to eat my stuffing, my motherfucking bread, my little roll and whatnot. And I said to him, I said, hey homie, tell me something. Why did you, trying to think of my word in this. Why did you kill a faggot if you were going to be destined to be a faggot later? You know, think about it. He's either going to get humped a lot or he's going to die. So why would you do that? I don't get that. You know what he said to me? Honest to God, this is what he said. He goes, he tried to grab my dick. That's what he said, man. He's dumb, dog. Don't even act like it was nothing. Now, I heard they were auctioning those boys off up in the Max Ward where killers go. heard that when they heard Aaron was coming, they were auctioning him off. I want him. I'll put aside 5, 6, 7 cartons of cigarettes. Auction his ass off. I'd be scared to go to prison if I were those boys.
Hello?
Reverend,
Yes, hello?
I believe your wife told you a bit about why I'm contacting you.
Yes, she did, and let me tell you, I'm not really sure I want to speak to anyone about this incident. I am somewhat involved, and I just don't think...
Yes, I understand, and, I don't blame you. I went to your church on Sunday.
You went to the church on Sunday?
Yes, I did.
This past Sunday?
Yes, this past Sunday.
Did I meet you?
Yes, you welcomed us at the beginning, I believe.
Let's see, well, I'm not afraid to be controversial or to speak my mind, and that is not necessarily the views of my congregation per se. Now, as I said, I am somewhat involved. A girlfriend of the accused is a member of this congregation, and one of the accused has visited. Now, the two I mentioned have forfeited their lives. We've been after those two boys for ages, trying to get them to live right, to do right. Now one of them's on suicide watch, and until they put him in the chair and turn on the juice, I will work for his salvation. Now, I think they deserve the death penalty, but I will try to deal with them spiritually.
Oh, right, I understand.
Now, as for the victim, I understand that the lifestyle is legal, but I'll tell you one thing. I hope that as Matthew Shepard lied there, he had a moment to think on when someone had spoken the word of the Lord to him. Now, before he slipped into a coma, he had a chance to reflect on his lifestyle.
Thank you, Reverend, for speaking with me.
At about 11:30, I just gone to sleep, and Margaret, our chief operating officer, called and said that Matthew's blood pressure was beginning to drop. Okay, well, let's just wait and see. At about 10 after she called again, he just died. So I quick got up and got dressed and went to the ICU where the family was. And I saw Judy. She put her arms around me, and I put my arms around her. Honestly, for about 10 minutes, because what else do you do? And then you have to talk about things that you just, well, Dennis, it's now public knowledge, and I'm gonna have to go out there and tell the whole world that this has happened. So at this point, it was clear that it was the world. It was the whole world. So Judy told me what she wanted me to say, and I went out at 4 o'clock a.m.
Matthew Shepard, medical update at 4:30 a.m. Monday, October 12th.
At about 12 o'clock midnight, October 12th, Matthew Shepard's blood pressure began to drop. We immediately notified his family, who were already inside the hospital. At 12:53, Matthew Shepard died. His family was at his bedside. The family has asked me to read the following statement. The family would like to express their sincerest gratitude to the entire world for their overwhelming response for their son. The family was grateful that they did not have to make a decision whether or not to keep their son on life support. Like a good son, he was caring to the end, and he removed all guilt from the family. He came into the world premature, and he left the world premature. Matthew's mother had
Go home. Give your kids a hug. And don't
don't know how it happened. I completely lost it on national television, but you know, we just went up like 72 hours straight and gone home and got to sleep and gotten in. I don't know, maybe I was just laying there, but as I was reading this scene, I thought of my own court audience. We'll go home and have your kids. She doesn't have a kid. And there I am, and I'm thinking, this is so lame. And then people started to write us letters and emails, and most of them were generally very kind, but I did receive this one. This guy wrote me and he said,
Do you cry like a baby on TV for all your patients, or just the faggots?
as I mentioned before, homosexuality is not a lifestyle with which I agree. But I guess I didn't understand the magnitude of which some people hate. Out of all the letters we received, only 2 or 3 of them were like that. Most of them were, thank you for your care and compassion, and after your care and compassion from the moment that he got here.
I spoke with Doc today and told him we would soon be coming back out for the upcoming trials of Aaron McKinney and Russell Henderson. And this is what he had to say. I'll tell you what, if they put those 2 boys to death, that would defeat everything Matt would be thinking about on them. Because Matt would not want those 2 boys to die. Matt would want to leave them with hope. H-O-P-E. Just like the whole world had hope that Matt would survive. You see, this whole thing is built around hope. H-O-P-E. The day of the funeral, it was snowing so bad, big, huge, wet snowflakes. But when I got there, there were thousands of people and just black with umbrellas everywhere. And there were 2 churches, one for the immediate family and invited guests, people of that nature, and then one church for everybody who wanted to be there. And still, there were hundreds of people outside the churches that couldn't fit into either one, and there was a park by one of the churches, and that's where these people were. And this park was full.
The liturgy today is the Easter liturgy. It finds its meaning in the resurrection, and the service invites your full participation. The Lord be with you.
And also with you.
Let us pray.
And I guess it was like the worst storm that they have had.
Tiffany Edwards.
Like that anyone could remember. Like trees went down and the power went out for a couple days because of it. And I just remember thinking it's like the forces of the universe at work, you know? Whatever higher power, you know, that blows storms was blowing this storm.
For our dear brother Matthew, let us pray to Jesus Christ who said, I am the resurrection and the life. We pray to the Lord.
Hear us, Lord.
My most striking memory from the funeral
Carrie Drake, Casper Star Tribute.
was seeing the Reverend Fred Phelps from Kansas and that whole scene go down in the park.
Do you believe in the Bible? Do you believe you're supposed to separate the precious from the vile? You don't believe that part of the Bible. You sit over there ignorant of the fact that the Bible, 2 times for every verse, it talks about God's love. It talks about God's hate.
Well, a bunch of high school kids who got out early came over and started yelling at the people in protest, the Fred Phelps people. And people were lining for the funeral across the street. Well, I remember this guy, this skinhead wearing spikes and leather everywhere, and he comes over from the funeral to the protest, and I'm thinking, this is about to be a really ugly confrontation, but instead, he starts leading them in amazing grace.
We wouldn't be here if this was just another murder the state was going to deal with. The state deals with hundreds of murders every single day, but this murder is different because the fags are bringing us out here trying to make Matthew Shepard into a poster boy for the gay lifestyle, and we're going to answer it. It's just that simple.
6 months later, we returned to Laramie for the trial of Russell Henderson, the first of the 2 perpetrators.
And we're going to preach
It was to be a capital murder trial. When we arrived at Albany County Courthouse, Fred Phelps was already there. But so was Romaine Patterson.
After seeing Fred Phelps protesting at Matthew's funeral and finding out that he was going to Laramie for the trial of Russell Henderson, I decided that someone needed to stand toe-to-toe with this guy and show the differences. And I think at times like this, when we're talking about hatred as much as the nation is right now, that someone needs to show that this is a way of dealing with that
silly arguments when set over against some solid
dressed up
gospel
like
truth.
angels. And so we
Bearing
designed an
and
angel
sterile,
outfit
like
for our wings are huge. They're like big ass
silly
wings.
arguments.
And what we're gonna do is we're gonna
Where those
encircle
all
those.
priests
And
lay
because
their
of our
hands
big
on
wings,
these
we're
called
gonna completely
ordination.
block
And then
them.
they deliver a
So
charge.
this big ass
Mine
wing
is
of
from
angels
Isaiah
comes in.
58:1.
We'll take
Cry
the
aloud,
word, we
spare
just turn our
not.
backs to him
Lift
and
up thy voice
stand
with
there.
a trumpet and
We
show
are
my
calling
people their
the
transgression.
message of peace and
Cry
love
aloud,
and
spare
compassion.
not.
So we're calling
Lift
it
up thy
angel
voice like a
action.
trumpet
This
and show my
21-year-old
people their
lesbian is ready to
transactions.
walk that line with him.
Cry aloud,
And I know my
spare not.
angels are going to be taking the brunt of everything he
Cry
has
aloud,
to say.
spare not,
And
lift up
he's
thy
going to be
voice.
talking as you, he's going to be pissed to all hell. So I went out and bought all my angels earplugs.
His homosexuality is being a fag, okay? What do you mean it's not for you to judge?
The court is in session. Trish Steger, Romaine Patterson's sister.
Well, as soon as they started jury selection, everyone was coming into my shop and, oh, I hope I don't get picked, or oh my God, they picked me, how do I get off? Very scared that they were going to have to be a part of that jury, and just wanting to get as far away from it as they possibly could. And then I heard Russell Henderson was going to sit in the room where they questioned the prospective jurors, and one of the questions they ask is, would you be willing to put this person to death? And I understand a lot of the responses were, yes, I would.
Yes, I would, Your Honor.
Yes.
Can you imagine hearing that juror after juror after juror?
Mr. Henderson, you entered a not guilty plea earlier, but I understand you wish to change your plea today. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
You understand that the recommended sentence here is 2 life sentences.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that these sentences may run concurrently or they may run consecutively?
Yes, Your Honor.
I will now ask how you wish to plead, guilty or not guilty.
Guilty, Your Honor.
Before the court decides whether these sentences will run concurrently or consecutively, I understand there are statements to be made by at least one individual. This is an excerpt from a statement made to the court by Lucy Thompson.
As the grandmother and the person who raised Russell, along with my family, we have written the following statement. Our hearts ache for the pain and suffering that the shepherds have gone through. We have prayed for your family from the very beginning, and I've thought about Matt every day. Your family will continue to be in our thoughts and our prayers, as we know your pain will never go away. You showed us so much mercy in allowing us to have this plea and giving us all the opportunity to live. Your Honor, we as a family hope that as you sentence Russell, you do it 2 life terms that run concurrently for the Russell we know and love. Your Honor, we humbly plead not to take him out of our lives forever.
Thank you. Mr. Henderson, you have a constitutional right to make a statement to the court if you would like to do so. Do you have anything you would like to say?
Yes, I would, Your Honor. Mr. and Miss Shepard, not a day goes by when I don't see what happened that night. I am very sorry for what I did, and you have my sympathies for what happened, and I hope that one day you'll be able to find it in your hearts to forgive me. Your Honor, I know what I did was very wrong, and I'm very sorry for what I did, and I'm ready to begin to pay the debt for what I did.
Mr. Henderson, you drove the vehicle that took Matthew Shepard to his death. You bound him to that fence in order that he might be more savagely beaten, and in order that he might not escape to tell his tale. You left him out there for 18 hours knowing full well that he was there. Perhaps having had an opportunity to save his life, and you did nothing. Mr. Henderson, the court does not believe that you really feel any true remorse for your part in this matter, and I wonder whether you fully understand the gravity of what you've done. The court finds it appropriate, therefore, that sentence be ordered as follows. As to count 3, that being felony murder with robbery, you are to serve a period of imprisonment for the term of your natural life. As to count 1, that being kidnapping, you are to serve a period of imprisonment for the term of your natural life. Sentencing for count 1 to run consecutively to sentencing for count 3. After the hearing, we spoke with Russell Henderson's Mormon home teacher.
I've known Russell's family for 38 years. Russell's only 21, so I've known him his entire life. I ordained Russell a priest of the Mormon Church, so when this happened, you can imagine disbelief. After the sentencing, the church held a disciplinary council, and the result of that meeting was to excommunicate Russell from the church. And what that means is that your name is just erased from the church's records, so you just disappear. Russell didn't take that too positively. It hurt him. And it hurt him too to realize at that point just how serious a transgression that he had committed. But I will not desert Russell. That is a matter of my religion and my friendship with the family.
Before we left Laramie, we spoke one last time with Rebecca Hilliker at the theater department. She is producing Angels in America this year at the university.
I think that's the perspective the university has taken, is that we have a lot of work to do. That we have an obligation to find new ways to reach our students. And the question is, how do you move? How do you reach a whole state where there is some really deep-seated hostility towards gays? How do you reach them? This is the beginning. And guess who's auditioning for the lead?
My parents!
Jedediah Schultz.
My parents were like, what shows are you doing in school next year? And I was like, Angels in America, and I listed off all the shows we were doing. My mom was like, Angels in America, is that the one you did in high school, the scene you did in high school? And I was like, yeah. My mom was like, are you going to audition for it? And I was like, yeah, and we got this huge argument about it, and I knew the best. The best thing I had on her was that I was just in a performance of Macbeth, where I killed Lady Macduff, a little kid, and 2 other guys. And my mom just kept repeating, you know, homosexuality is a sin, right? And I was like, Mom, I just played a murderer tonight. And you didn't seem to have a problem with that. I'll tell you, I have never prepared this much for an audition in my life. Not ever. Not even close.
I'm not even deal with the gay community here in Laramie.
Detective Sergeant Rob DeBree.
Well, once I started working the case and actually talking to people that were gay and hearing what their underlying fears were, well, then it sort of hit home. This is America. You don't have the right to feel that fear. And we're probably still going to have some people who hold on to the old ideals, and I was probably one of them 14 months ago. But I'm not going to put up with it, and I'm not going to listen to it. And if they don't like my views on it, fine. The door goes both ways. I already lost a couple buddies. I don't care. I feel more comfortable and I can sleep at night.
Well, you're tested every few months.
Reggie Flutie.
And I was able to have the DNA work done, and so they got me over to Fort Collins. They drew the blood there, flew back to Michigan, and which was a week later they did the DNA work, and then it was negative for good.
We were all on our knees, saying Hail Marys.
It just elated, you know, and you think, thank God.
So, what's the first thing that she does?
I went and stuck my tongue right down my husband's throat. I was so happy. I was just so happy. And you think, yeah, I hope I did this service well. I hope I did it with some some integrity. So I was just really happy, and my daughter's just bawled.
Oh, they were so happy.
And of course, we went out and got
Shit-faced.
It was great. They were all buying me drinks, and everyone was hugging and crying, and I kissed everyone who walked through the door.
Reggie, they don't need to know all that.
I didn't care if they were male or female. They each got a kiss on the lips.
Now, what part of what I just said did you not understand?
Get over it, Mom.
Almost a year to the day that Matthew Shepard died, the trial of Aaron McKinney was set to begin.
Probably the question that most of you are wondering is, how the McKinney case will proceed.
Cal Baruka, prosecuting attorney.
And it is the decision of the county attorney's office that will most definitely be a death penalty case.
Part of me wants to see McKinney get it, but I'm not very proud of that. I can't say what I would do. I'm too personally involved.
Oh, I believe in the death penalty 100%. You know, because I want to make sure that guy's ass dies. This is one situation where I truly believe an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth.
I don't know about the death penalty, but I definitely never want to see him walk out of Rollins Penitentiary. I'll pay my nickel, my little percentage of tax, whatever, nickel a day, to make sure his ass stays in there and never sees society again, and definitely never comes into my bar again.
I don't believe in the death penalty. It's not right to me. I don't believe one person should be killed as redemption for his having killed another. Two wrongs don't make a right.
How can I protest if the Shepherds want McKinney dead? I just can't interfere in that. But on a personal note, I knew Aaron in grade school, and he didn't go by Aaron, he went by AJ. And how could we put AJ McKinney to death?
Well, I think right now our most important teachers must be Aaron McKinney and Russell Henderson. They must be our teachers. How did you learn? What did we as a society do to teach you that? See, I don't think a lot of people will let them be their teachers. I think it would be wonderful if the judge said, in addition to your sentence, you must tell your story. You must tell your story.
All rise. State of Wyoming versus Aaron James McKinney, docket number 6381. Honorable Barton R. Boyd presiding. The court is in session. During the trial of Aaron McKinney, the prosecution played a taped recording of his confession.
My name is Rob DeBree, Sergeant for the Sheriff's Office. You have the right to remain silent. Anything we say can and may be used against you in a court of law.
The following is an excerpt of that confession.
Okay, so you and Aaron, you guys are at the fireside. You're there by yourself, right?
Yeah.
Where do you go after you leave the fireside?
Some kid wanted to ride home.
What do you look like?
Like a queer. Such a queer dude.
You look like a queer?
Yeah, like a fag, you know?
Okay, where'd you meet him?
We were at the bar and he wanted to ride home, and I thought, well, he was drunk, let's just take him home.
When'd you and Russ talk about jacking him up?
We kind of talked about it at the bar.
And what happened next?
Well, we drove out past Walmart, and when we got out there, he started putting his hand on my leg like he was trying to grab my genitals, and I was like, look, I'm not a fucking faggot. You do it again, you're gonna get it. I beat him up pretty bad. I think I killed him.
What'd you beat him with?
Blacked out. Fists, gun, part of the gun. I don't know, it's like, I knew what was going on, but someone else was doing it.
What was the first thing he did inside the truck that made you start hitting him?
He put his hand on my leg and slid it up like he was trying to grab my balls.
When that defense team argued that McKinney did what he did because Matthew made a pass at him, I just wanted to vomit. Because that's like saying it's okay. It's like the Twinkie defense, like when the guy killed Harvey Milk in Moscow. It's the same thing.
As much as a part of me didn't want the defense of them saying that it was gay bashing or it was gay panic, part of me is really grateful because I was really scared that in the trial they were going to try and say that it was a robbery or it was about drugs. So when they said gay panic, I felt this is good. If nothing else, the truth is going to be told. The truth is coming out.
Have you ever tried to defend himself or hit you back?
Yeah, he tried his little swings, but they weren't really effective.
How many times did you hit him inside the truck before you stopped where you left him?
2 or 3 with my fists, and then another 6 with the gun.
Did he ask you to stop?
Oh yeah, he was getting the shit kicked out of him.
What did he say?
After he asked us to stop, he was kind of just screaming.
Okay, so Russ kind of dragged him over to the fence, I'm assuming, and tied him up?
Yeah, something like that. Russ thought it was pretty funny at first, but he got really scared.
Was he conscious when Russ tied him up?
Yeah, and I told him to look away because I didn't want him to see my license plate because I was afraid he was going to tell the cops. And I told him to read the license plate, and he did, so I did him a couple more times.
Just to be sure. So obviously you don't like gay people.
No, I don't.
Would you say you hate them?
No. I wouldn't say I hate them, but when they start coming on to me, I get pretty aggravated.
Did he threaten you?
The gay dude?
Yeah.
No.
Can you answer me one thing? Why'd you guys take his shoes?
I don't know. I'll never see my son again.
I don't know. Probably go to court sometime today.
Today? So I'm just gonna go in there and plead guilty or not guilty today?
No, you're just gonna be arraigned today.
He's gonna die for sure.
There's no doubt that Mr. Shepard is going to die.
So we're gonna give me just 25 years to life and the death penalty and just get it over with.
It's not our job. It's the judge's job and the jury's.
Has the jury reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor. We, the jury, impaneled and sworn to try the above entire case, after having well and truly tried the matter, unanimously find as follows. As to the charge of kidnapping, we find the defendant, Aaron James McKinney, guilty. As to the charge of armed robbery, we find the defendant, Aaron James McKinney, guilty. As to the charge of first-degree felony murder kidnapping, we find the defendant, Aaron James McKinney, guilty. As to the charge of first-degree felony murder robbery, we find the defendant, Aaron James McKinney, guilty. As to the charge of premeditated first-degree felony murder, we find the defendant, Aaron James McKinney, not guilty. As to
Aaron
the lesser
McKinney was found
included
guilty of felony
second-degree
murder, which meant the
we find
jury
the
could
defendant,
give him
Aaron
the
James
death
McKinney,
penalty.
guilty.
That evening, Dennis and Judy Shepard were approached by McKinney's defense team, who pled for their client's life. The prosecution indicated that they would defer to the family's wishes as to whether or not to pursue the death penalty. The following morning, Dennis Shepard made a statement to the court. Here is some of what he said.
My son, Matthew, did not look like a winner. He was rather uncoordinated and wore braces from the age of 13 until the day he died. However, in his all too brief life, he proved that he was a winner. On October 6, 1998, my son tried to show the world that he could win again. On October 12, 1998, my firstborn son and my hero lost. On October 12, 1998, my firstborn son and my hero died just 50 days before his 22nd birthday. I keep thinking the same thing I did when I first saw him in the hospital. What would he have become? How could he have changed his little piece of the world to make it better? Matt officially died in a hospital in Fort Collins, Colorado. He actually died on the outskirts of Laramie, tied to a fence. You, Mr. McKinney, along with your friend, Mr. Henderson, left him out there all by himself. But he was not alone. He had his lifelong friends with him, friends that he had grown up with. I'm sure you're wondering who these friends were. First, he had the beautiful night sky, and the same stars and the same moon that we used to see through a telescope. Then he had the daylight, and the sun to shine on him. Through it all, he was breathing in the scent of pine from the snowy range. He heard the wind, that ever-present Wyoming wind, one last time. He had one more friend with him. He had God. And I feel better knowing that he was not alone. Matt's beating, hospitalization, and funeral focused worldwide attention on hate. Good is coming out of evil. People have said enough is enough. I miss my son. But I am proud to be able to say that he is my son. Judy has been quoted as being against the death penalty. It has been stated that Matt was against the death penalty. However, both of these statements are wrong. Matt believed that there were crimes and incidents that justified the death penalty. I too believe in the death penalty. And I would like nothing better than to see you die, Mr. McKinney. However, now is the time to begin the healing process, to show mercy to someone who refused to show any mercy. Mr. McKinney, I'm going to grant you life. As hard as it is for me to do so for Matthew. Every time you celebrate a birthday, Christmas, or the 4th of July, know that Matt isn't. Every day you wake up in your prison cell, know that you had the opportunity and the ability to stop your actions that night. You robbed me of something very precious. And I will never forgive you for that. Mr. McKinney, I give you life in memory of one who no longer lives. May you live a long life. And may you thank Matthew every day for it.
Me and Debris hugged and cried. And everyone had tears in their eyes, and Mr. Shepherd was crying, and that got me bawling, and everybody just...
This is all we've lived and breathed for years. It's been our case daily. Now it's over.
Maybe now we can move on, and we can quit being stuck, you know?
It finally hit me the minute that I walked out of the courtroom. That the reason God wanted me to find him is or he didn't have to die out there alone, you know? And if I wouldn't have came along, then they wouldn't have found him for a couple of weeks, at least. So it makes me feel good. He didn't have to die out there alone.
I just thought it's over. I really am.
Matt Galloway.
Testifying in this trial is one of the hardest things I've ever done. And don't get me wrong, I love the stage, I really do. It's just tricky because what you have is lawyers questioning you from this angle, and the answers need to be funneling this way to the jury, so you kind of have to establish a funneling system, which is hard for me because I'm a natural conversationalist, so it's just natural instinct that when someone asks me a question, I look at them to make eye contact, which is hard when you kind of have to scoot over, change your position, and in effect funnel over to where the jury is. But I was able to do this many times over the course of the testimony.
It's time to move on. And I think for even the citizens are having the town painted red, so to speak. They're gonna just be glad to maybe get moved on.
On our last trip to Laramie, I had the good fortune of seeing our friend Jedediah Schultz play the role of Prior in Angels in America. After the performance, we spoke. For the longest time, I didn't let myself get involved in the whole Matthew Shepard thing. Matthew Shepard felt more like a name than an individual, I don't know, man. It's so weird, man. It's just so weird. I just feel so bad for the person I used to be. That's why I want to hear all those interviews from last year, because I just can't believe I said that stuff about homosexuals, I just can't believe I never let something like that get between me and you,
This is Romaine Patterson.
Well, a year ago, I wanted to be a rock star. That was my goal. And now it's obviously changed in the fact that throughout the past year, I've really realized my role and taken my part. And so now, instead of going to school to be in music, I'm going to go to school for communications and political science because I have a career in political activism. I just recently found out that I was going to be honored in Washington, D.C. by the Anti-Defamation League. Whenever I think about the Angels or any of the speaking that I've done, Matthew gave me. Matthew's just guiding me on this path for me to walk down with his light. And every time we get to like a door, he opens it. And he just says, okay, next step. And if I get to be a rock star on the side, well, okay.
This is Jonas Swaniger.
Change is not an easy thing, and I don't think people are up to it here. They got what they wanted. Those sports got what they deserved. You look good now. Justice has been served. The OK Corral. We shot down the villains. We sent the prostitutes on the train. The town's cleaned up, and no, we don't need to talk about it anymore. It's been a year since Matthew Shepard died, and they haven't passed shit in Wyoming. At a state level, any town, no one anywhere has passed any kind of law. Anti-discrimination law, hate crime legislation. Nobody's passed anything anywhere. What's come out of this? What's come out of this that's concrete or long-lasting?
We all said we meet again. One last time.
Listen, I went up to that site in my limousine, okay? And let me tell you, I remembered to myself the night he and I drove around together. He said to me, Laramie sparkles, doesn't it? And from up there, you said exactly where he was up there. Laramie sparkles with a low-lying cloud. It's the reflection of the blue light bouncing off the clouds from the airport, right over the whole city. It blows you away. And that was right up there, in that spot. And I can just picture in his eyes what he was seeing. The last thing he saw on this earth were the sparkling lights.
We spent the last 2 days packing up a year's worth of materials and saying our goodbyes. We've been here 6 times, conducted over 200 interviews. Jedediah cried when he said goodbye.
Marge wished us luck, and when I asked her how Laramie would feel seeing a play about itself, she said,
Well, I think we'd enjoy it. So it's not the hellhole of the earth. But that's up to how you portray us and in turn how Laramie behaves.
As we were getting off the phone with her, she said to me,
Take care. I love you, honey.
Doc asked me if I was interested in writing a ghost novel about the whole event, and Galloway offered me or anyone else a place to stay if and when we come back to Laramie. He also seemed interested as to whether or not there'd be any open auditions for this play.
We left Laramie for Denver at about 7 in the evening, and on the road I took a look at my rearview mirror to see one last look at town.
And I will speak with you. I will trust that if you write a play of this, that you say it right. You need to do your best to say it correct.
And in the distance, I could see the sparkling lights of Laramie, Wyoming.